Hi, and welcome to On the Couch, Conversations with Brenda Porter, where I sit down with theater artists and those who work with theater artists and take the opportunity to know what they do, how they do it, and how they feel. I ask you to comment below, subscribe, and like us. Today's guest is Betty Chaney. After she retired, she pulled out a script that she had been working on years ago and completed it. And this changed her life. She is now in the next chapter of her life because the show was produced and she wrote two other shows to make it a trilogy. She has published two of those. And so I welcome you today, Betty. Hello and welcome to On the Couch.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I was reading a little bit about um, your your journey, and I thought it was very interesting. You began writing when you were early, and you were going to be a writer, but then something changed. So talk to me about
Well, early on, I started a novel at about 13 years old called Always Jan. And I wanted to be a writer. And I was telling my family I was going to be a writer. And they said, but baby, you got to have something to pay the bills. You can't just, write and make a living with that. So I decided I wanted to be a reporter and was planning to do that. But my college path did not lead to that. Ended up majoring in English lit. So I followed a different path, but still I would try to do a little writing. I started a short story and submitted it somewhere. I think when I was about seventh grade, my teacher took an interest in it in Scholastic magazine. I think I submitted it to that. So, but anyway, I always kind of had that desire to write. I started out young with that.
it. And I understand that you had articles that were published in Red Book and such. So writing has really been your path.
Yeah, in a sense, it has. It has been, although I found that it wasn't so much the writing, but the editing that really was the job, and the writing sort of was what you did in your free time, and you submitted things here and there, in the hopes of being published. But it was sort of in the area of writing that I spent the first 15 years of my life, and then after that the next 15 were spent at Clark Atlanta University as a writing specialist. And about the only thing I was reading then were students' papers, and the only writing I was doing was writing comments on those papers. Uh, so, yeah, it wasn't until after I retired that I was able to kind of go back and pick up the writing that I'd wanted to do.
Well, what made you go back and pick it up, number one, and why plays?
Well, for me, I find that to be the easiest to write. Novels takes too much work, too much description, too much analyzation, and all of that. So one thing, that's the first area that I started in was theater. I My first job teaching at Jackson State, I would look at the black world and think, and they would always have this section on black theater. So while I was grading papers there and getting really bored with it, I said, I'm going to move to New York. So that's what I did. I moved to New York in search of black theater, and was kind of fortunate in that I ended up with Ed Bullens in a workshop, and learned a lot of things about the craft there. So I don't know, for some reason I just always sort of gravitate toward the theater. Although I did, as you mentioned, I did have a short story published in Essence, and I had a young woman story published in Red Book, and I did write news articles. I thought I wanted to be this reporter, but after I got a job at the Atlanta Voice newspaper, having to do reporting and everything, I realized no, that is not the field, that is not the area for me. But so yeah, I just always kind of liked plays, and I you can put the action out there and leave it to the audience and to the reader to do the analysis and the all of fill in the blanks. For me, it just works best of the writing.
So you picked up a play that had been sitting for how many years?
Well, actually, if you listen to the years, you think, "Oh my Lord, no, please." But I actually started it in 1985. I remember particularly because it was a year that I first met a cousin of mine who is from Mississippi, like me. Her grandmother and my her grandmother and my grandmother were sisters, but she had never been to Mississippi. She had a baby at the same time that I had my last son. And so I just thought that was the strangest thing. Oh my goodness, what is could have happened that that they've never come home to Mississippi. So I started that play in 1985, but then I went on and didn't retire until 2000, December of 2009. So that was almost like 25 years right there when I picked it up again. And for some reason, I tried to go on past that play. I started other plays. I submitted, I think, something years ago to Jamande or some, I tried other things, but for some reason, that play just kept coming back to me. So after retiring, as I said, I picked that one up and did go ahead. Look, thought I had completed it, but as you know, all the processes of writing, it was not yet complete. I had to go through readings and it had to go through revisions, but I did complete a draft of it somewhere around 2010.
So you have since then done a trilogy based on this piece. So tell me first, tell us. I know, but tell us what this story is about. I mean, it's about going back to Mississippi. You've already said that. Tell us about the family.
Yeah, there's the matriarch, Mama Ida. The person that holds this whole thing together is Effie Ray, who used to come south, as so many people did, to spend the summers with her grandmother. She was from Chicago. She'd come down every summer to spend the summers with her grandmother, but then at age 16, something happened that summer. She left and didn't return for 30 years. So that's the basis of the group. There's Mama Ida, who's as I said, the matriarch. Then there's her daughter, Bessie, who has come home from Chicago to be there with her mother, and not to be with her mother. Actually, her mother's sort of taking care of her, but she's there. So there's that generation, and then of course Effie Ray makes the third generation. She has a daughter, Simone, and then when her daughter has this baby, this is when she feels compelled to come back home. So her daughter has a little boy, as it turns out, and she wants to bring the child home to reconnect with his roots. She feels that her daughter has missed out on so much by not having any family, not having that connection to family. So this is what finally brings her home in 1985. Yeah, she comes home in 85, not having been there for 30 years.
And the name of this play is The Rooting
Is
Place.
the rooting place. This is where it all begins, the roots of. And as it turns out, it's interesting. As I said, I thought I had completed that play, and I had a certain ending for that play, and did not really change the ending to that play until after one of the readings. One of the actresses came up to me and, well, no, she didn't come up to me. She came up to you, who was directing the reading, and she said, I really can't understand the motivation for Bessie's animosity. So I got to thinking, there is a missing link there. So it was only in about I guess, I don't know, 13th draft that I realized, oh, yes, that's what it's all about. That's what has to happen. I'm telling you, for me, writing, I don't know if it's that way for every writer, but it is definitely a process. And that process can be so elusive. You get up one morning, you think, oh yeah, that's what it is. So you go and make that change, and then by the time you get up the next morning, you think, oh no, So it's a process. And anyway, so that's the basis of it. It's the family of, and then there's a cousin in that family, Cleve, who sort of holds everybody together. He's the one who's every family probably has a person like that. So he's a cousin. And then there was a romantic interest for Bessie, a gentleman named Buddy Red. That's a part of the initial cast of the Rooting Place. And I think that's it. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned your process. I want to talk about. I want to come back and talk about the sequel to it. But um, your process. What is your process? It seems like you obviously dream about or think about during the night the writing and come back to it. What? How do you do this?
It My process varies. Sometimes I start out writing longhand. Usually I switch over to typing and I'll type, type a draft, and maybe you get to a point where you can't really, it doesn't seem to be moving. So then I then may switch back to handwriting occasionally. But it's just that the stories kind of weave and tell themselves. But very frequently, I will end up with one version of it, and then before another day has come and gone, I'll realize, oh no, I need to make this change. So I go back and edit that. I must say that once I did complete the Rooting Place, which, as I said, appears to have taken 25 years, although I was not writing on it continuously. There was life happening. I had three sons. Sometimes I was working three jobs, teaching full time at Clark Atlanta, teaching adjunct at Atlanta Metropolitan, and even on Saturdays at Shorter, working as a tutor. So it seemed that it was 25 years. But yeah, so it can be a long process. At least for me, it was. But then once I got that initial family unit together, as you know, the other two stories came much faster. They were able to, I was able to pull them together much faster than I was able to pull together the Rooting Place. And you said, did you ask me why a trilogy?
Yes. Why a
It
trilogy?
just, yeah, it just kind of happened. Um, and now what comes after a trilogy? A quartet? Whatever it is that comes after a trilogy, I think there may be something coming up. I have this roommate that would always say, "Well, Betty, you got to write about the COVID. You've got to write one that talks about COVID." So I think there may be something coming up after the rerouting, the last one,
That still
because
deals with the Townsend family, or a
with the
totally
family,
different.
it was left so open ended. Yeah, but with I want to end with Effie Ray, and that will be the closure that I should have had in the rerouting. That my objective in the rerouting was to get Jeffrey Lee off the farm, to get to come full circle with the baby that came in, that was mentioned in, I think, the second sequel. I wanted to get that, complete that process, and then I sort of left it open ended with somebody leaving the farm. Jeffrey Lee did leave the farm, but then there were other things that were left
Oh
open.
wow.
So, so, so
I'm intrigued. I'm
get
intrigued.
ready, Impact Theater. By the time we get back to having business as usual, maybe you will consider carrying the fourth story of the Townsend family. Yeah, the way it ended with things being so. Look, I left it open ended for Oprah and Tyler Perry to come knocking, but they haven't come knocking yet. So I
Well,
got
you
to
might have to send it
on
to
hands.
them. There, I know was at one point about trying to make it into some sort of cinematic project. Is that still in the makings process, the thought?
I'm not really sure. Someone approached me about it, and I'm hoping that she's making some contacts on that. But I don't really know. That would be wonderful if that should happen, but I don't really know what's happening with that.
Because I really do see the possibility, not necessarily of a film, but I really see the possibility of a series, like a television series, mini series or something where we learn about this Townsend family and all of these things take place. I a 4 year series. It would take us 4 years to get through them, through all of the
Maybe one year.
stories.
I don't know about 4 years. I think we could cover it all in one year series. kind of my idea to in writing it to be like for the grandkids later on, maybe pick it up and say, "Oh, look what Grammy wrote," and it's like a little slice of life of a period kind of piece of what happened between the years of 1985 and 2022 or three or four or whatever. So I would put, although there was not the family was not politically driven, I did try to sort of include things that were going on in the world around them into the plays, but I did not choose to make them activists in any way. It's like the kids were kind of growing up in a bubble on the farm, living their life. At one point, at, in the first play, Emmett Till was killed this last summer. That that Effie Ray was there, but they were like oblivious to any of that. They would, on the farm, picking worms to go fishing and playing in the lake. They had no idea about anything so much off the farm. They were kind of protected in that way.
Well, when you talk about that, I think that it's interesting that you bring up a lot of the political and racial things that were happening at that time, that even happened before that time. In reading the play, you talk about, you know, Effie Ray not not sure about how the white people would accept things, and her
Yes.
daughter not understanding that because her daughter's from Atlanta and in another generation. Um, how do you think they would respond to Black Lives Matters issues that happen? How would those characters respond to that today?
Oh, that's interesting. Probably Effie Ray would be very much supportive of that. She would want to be out there participating in a part of that. Simone, on the other hand, her daughter, was a little bit more sophisticated and a little bit more reserved. She probably would not want to be out there. Although she would have respect for it, she would not be a participant. But yes, I can see Effie Ray very much wanting to be a part of that movement.
So your piece obviously is very Afro-American centered because the family is, and it's in Mississippi in the South. And I really feel like in some ways you are giving us a slice of Southern American history and lifestyle for those people who were in the North, or even those people that are in the South have a chance to remember. Um,
Hmm.
and so I just want to, I think there's a big shout out to you for being able to paint that picture for those people who have never been to the South, and for those people who were like, yeah, my grandma was like that. And yeah, yeah, I remember going and picking worms and going fishing. Um, you know, so yeah, I think that's interesting. In your retirement, I now know that you have plans to write the fourth piece. But are you thinking at all about writing any other um, plays or?
No, actually not. My original idea was to have all three plays published by the time the last play completed. I had a former student there at Clark Atlanta that would tell me, Miss Cheney, it's simple, it's easy, to get it published, to get the book published. So she finally said to me something about getting a uh, Fiverr, 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 I think it's how it's pronounced, freelancer to help with the formatting, because that was what was stopping me. I couldn't figure out how to get it formatted. So she mentioned that, well, you can get one, you can go to a freelancer and they'll help you format it, blah blah blah. So my idea was to have all three stories published at one time at the end of the run, but I didn't really have. I was waiting for certain edits on the last play, so I said, "Oh well, maybe I should just go ahead and do them individually. So that's what has happened. I did the rooting place because after going through with you, Miss Porter, the process of getting it stage ready, I felt that we made all the edits and everything that I needed to in that one. So I was able to go ahead and get it formatted for print. The other, the uprooting was almost there, but I wanted to make a few changes in it. As you know, I sort of changed the ending to be more. I don't know what it is, but to capture the readers that like things with the what do they call the endings, the my senior moments,
Cliffhangers.
cliffhangers and everything. The young people like the cliffhangers, whatever. So anyway, that one wasn't quite ready, so I just did them. Ended up doing them one by one, and that really is what saved me. That process of being able to contact this freelancer over in Nigeria. That was, they will format the book, put it in the right style and everything to be printed, and like one, two, three, it's done. So
So you have published the first one, The Rooting Place,
the rooting
and you
place.
are in the process, or you have published the second
I
piece.
published the second one. Actually, it's published, and because you're advised to not release a book toward the end of the year, I sort of, although it's published and ready, I said I'm not going to launch it until the beginning of the year. So on January the 8th, there will be a launching party for the uprooting, the second sequel. Although it is already at Amazon and can be purchased at this time, but the launching party for it won't be until January the 8th.
And how does one attend this launching party? Because
I'm
I'm
sending
assuming it's virtual, right, rather than in person.
definitely virtual.
Okay.
So there will be a link that some people have already received. I mentioned it on Facebook, and I've sent out some emails about it. So people are invited to come to the launching party virtually on the 8th. And that's although I'm, as I say, calling it the release is already actually taken place. So my Nigerian, I was able to go back and get the same young man that helped me the first time to help me again. So it has already been published. It's already been released, but the party for it will be on the 8th.
But your books can be purchased on Amazon at this time, or they can
Yes,
contact you if they need to.
if they need to. Yes, the simplest
Um,
thing is to just go to Amazon and order it from there. It takes care of the shipping and everything. I don't really pick up that many copies because uh, we've with COVID book sale. You can't really go to the bookstores and have a display and sell your books that way. So basically, it's Amazon or whatever other bookstores. I don't currently have it in other bookstores, but sometimes you can get it in other bookstores. But so for me, right now, Amazon is the best route.
well, you also mentioned leaving this for your grandkids, which I think is really interesting because at the time that you started writing it, you did not have grandkids,
I did not have grandkids.
and you had no idea that you were leaving this legacy for them.
No, it's just I think of the books more so as that. As you know, getting something done in a theater is a difficult process. I feel so so grateful to you, Brenda, for having discovered the rooting place, and because sending out, theaters, sending out, and you have to do it this way. It's just a long process, and to get play picked up by a theater is not easy. So so for me, I said, okay, that's great. At some point, we'll get back to that, and maybe I'll try to get it in more theaters. But at this point, the simplest way to give it some kind of outlet is through publishing. So that's why I took the publishing route.
Now, if you decide to make it camera ready, will that be something that you will be editing and doing, or will you turn it over to somebody else to do?
I definitely have to turn it over to someone else to do. Yeah. And you were asking me earlier, would I, in writing something else, if, like, this is my project, if I can get this completed, I'm taking off. I'm going to enjoy my grandkids, enjoy travel. I'm not doing it. The work that I have set for myself is to get this completed. And once this is done, bye bye.
I don't know, Betty. You thought once the third one was done, it was bye bye. But obviously, the
Yeah.
universe has other plans for you in your writing.
Oh dear. Yeah, the universe can turn things around, that's for sure. The universe has given us COVID. Actually, COVID has worked in my favor, unfortunately. It's an unfortunate situation. But for me, it's been because every everybody slowed down, and I was here, and I was able to make the changes, contact somebody to do the formatting, and it was it works for me because I'm not an upfront person, as you very well know, giving a lot of interviews and being at book displays. That's like a chore for me. That's, oh no. But if I can work behind the scenes, put it out there, that works. So COVID has allowed me to quietly, put these books out there, and as I said, at some later point, maybe I'll go back and try to knock on some theater doors to see if I can get the productions done
Yeah,
elsewhere.
I think it would be really wonderful. Have you tried talking to some of the play production publishing people about putting it on their sites?
Actually, I have not. Yeah, that's something that I need to
Yeah,
definitely
that
do.
would be great because just in reading things, or looking for plays myself, sometimes I come across something that I'm like, huh, that sounds interesting, and then I'll order a copy. And um, sometimes I produce it, and sometimes I don't, or sometimes I put it on my back burner for this might be something that I might want to do at some point. And so, if nothing else, if it gets out there um, on those play publishing sites, there'll be people that will order it, that will
But
read it.
the thing about those sites, I don't know about all of them, but what's the biggest one? The one, what's
It used to be Samuel French. It's now
French? Well,
Concord.
just
Concord. Yeah.
use French for example. I don't know about but in order to get on there, you have to have had certain kind of productions. They have certain requirements that you can't get a play that's just freshly done like that. They won't accept it. It has to have had a certain kind of opening, and it has to have had a certain kind of run, been at a major theater, and this, that, and the other. So, again,
What I think was also very interesting to me is that when you came to my class, you very adamantly said that you were a writer and you were not an actor, and that you just wanted to become part of that process. And yet I have discovered, Miss Betty Chaney, you are quite the
no, you have
actress.
not.
And one of the things I think is nice about your acting, Betty, is that it comes from a quiet, honest place because you don't think you're an actor. You just come out with what's real. So who knows? Maybe there's an acting career in there someplace.
Hey, no, in another lifetime, maybe. In another lifetime, but thank you so very much. Coming from you, I'll take it seriously, but no, thank you.
If you could give advice to your younger self, what would you say?
To be more persistent. That's one thing that I kind of picked up from my husband. He was very persistent. Like I was supposed to be the writer, But then he was the one to first get something published because you know, he sent it to Black World. They rejected. Hey, 2 months later, back to them again. Back. Just stay at it. So I'm not been as persistent as I should be. I need to not be so inhibited. I need to be more out front. So I would say to my younger self, be more confident, more outgoing. I think would have helped me out a lot earlier on.
I think that's interesting, Betty, because I think that you're probably more outgoing than you think, and you're more persistent and focused than you probably think you are. I mean, you've gotten a lot done. You've written 3 plays. You've published 2 of them in a fairly short amount of time from somebody who didn't know what they were doing. You know.
Yeah, but you look at other writers and they've, have this body of work, 25, you know, productions, 5 novels, 50 short stories. So my it's very small what I have contributed, but of course, for me it was many other things going on in my life than just writing. So I'm not complaining. I'm happy with it. I'm grateful for the way it's turned out. But I just know that had I persisted in being a writer, I probably could have turned out a much greater body of work than the 3 plays that I have that I am thankful for. But it's not that much really.
Well, you have the rest of your life to make up
I
to.
told you, as soon as I can get this done, hey, I'm out of here. Look out, South Africa. Look out here. I'm coming.
Well, the
Yeah.
great thing about writing, Betty, is you can write in South Africa, you can write in Ghana, you can write in Europe, you can write in Spain, you can write in Mississippi. You just
You
all you
don't
need
want me
is
to
your.
get time for that? No, no, no. Oh,
The
dear God.
writing goes with you. It's not like some things you can't do elsewhere, but writing goes with you. It's all in. So don't shut the door.
All right.
Betty, I want to thank you for taking the time to sit down with me today on the couch.
Behind me is a quilt that my roommates made for me for the rooting place.
Oh,
Yes. Yes. That was so kind and sweet of them.
so those are
These
pictures
roommates.
from the rooting place?
Yes, these are, if you could see it up close, you would see scenes on there from the rooting place. One took photographs of the play, and one in Memphis put all of these things together into a quilt. Excellent.
Wow.
I have, yes. We stayed in touch for all these years. 1966, we graduated. Jackson State.
So you should get a quilt for each of the plays. So you have the rooting place, the uprooting, the rerouting, and I don't know what this next one's going to be called. The uh, okay, I don't know. Unrooting, I don't know. Thank you, thank you, thank you for sitting down on the couch with me. And if you were watching today, I ask you to comment below, to subscribe, and to like us. And as always, just keep the conversations going.
Let's have a heart to heart. Let's have a conversation. Let's have a heart to heart. Let's have a consultation. Let's have a heart to heart. Let's have a conversation. Let's have a heart to heart. Let's have a consultation. On the couch.